United uses Pratt and Whitney. So whoever dumped that engine there, and there are allegedly pictures of people dumping that out of some kind of a bus, they put the wrong engine there. And I would imagine that whoever planned this thing never expected people to actually measure the diameter of the fans on the blade to see exactly which engine it was. For somebody who would plan something this horrific, you can't imagine that they're really dealing with a full set, right?
Right.
So it might have been above and beyond their ability to realize that they had better put the right engine, the fake right engine, in the street there on Murray Street.
Well, nothing would surprise me. Absolutely nothing. The bigger the lie, the more unbelievable. Sure. And I understand that. And, when you're talking about directed energy weapons doing things and stuff like that, I was trying to talk to somebody from the U.S. Air Force Space Command.
Yeah.
And we got the big nicks from, I think, the Juliet Alpha Golf said no. Because I'm liable to ask them some questions that, even when they don't answer, they're answering.
Yeah.
So that went down the road. So tell me something. I have asserted several times on the program that everything that we know of as being current technology is 30, maybe even 40 years behind what really exists. Do you agree with that?
Oh, absolutely.
Well, now, in your experience in flying these test aircraft, there's I don't have any notes as to how many of them went into production, but let's shift gears and let's just go to your flying career for just a few minutes.
Okay, and before you say anything, I want to be sure that I didn't fly 156 test airplane. I flew 156 different airplanes.
Okay, gotcha.
So go ahead.
Yeah, well, those were just some notes that were given to me. Sorry, I did not write that. I am not writing John's script, nor is he writing mine. That's what makes this potentially volatile. Just flying my little Beechcraft around.
Oh, cool.
I mean, just a little A-36.
Really?
And, yeah. And then I've got one of those goofy little L-29 Delphins, little T-tail trainer, ex-Soviet block thing. It sucks so much fuel, though, you can't fly it very much, because it'll just bankrupt you in about, 2 weeks.
Really?
Yeah.
That's cool.
Yeah. But, one of my favorite things to do is come into an airport in the evening, and you got what I like to call God rays coming down through the clouds. And I'm just like, golly, great spirit. Thank you for letting me do this. What are some of the most wonderful moments that you just looked out the window and went, I cannot believe I'm seeing this in your flying career? Anything come to mind? Yeah,
doing that into Hong Kong.
Oh boy!
I happened to have my kids in the cockpit with me because it was a cargo flight. And when I was flying for Trans-Mediterranean Airways, and we were coming in from the east at sunset, and you know how it looks with all the bright lights, and but it's still just a little bit of light in the sky, blues and pinks and reds and stuff like that. That's how it was. It was just absolutely unbelievable.
Well, what's the most interesting aircraft of the test variety that you have flown?
I didn't fly very many. The only test airplanes I flew were the ones I raced in the biplane class. I didn't get to fly. I flew production test flight for Learjet, but nothing way out or anything for the military, nothing like that. Okay,
gotcha. Did not know this. All right, well, it's still extra. I'll tell you what. I'd have to live several lifetimes over. I'm using the word several, meaning more than two, to have logged the kind of hours that you have. That's really extraordinary. Now, it was very strange. I went to this website one day called whatdoesitmean.com. Just got there by accident. Whatdoesitmean.com. And I started looking at the Sorsha Fall and the sisters and this and that, and I'm going, wow, this is wacky stuff. And then I got to this part about UFO test scares the daylights out of a bunch of people up in Washington State. I didn't hear anything about it. Something about some magneto-electrodyne engine that they're having trouble igniting it, something like this. And then as I went into this UFO thing, down at the bottom, we came to the black triangle thing, and I thought, all right, I'll read about this. And as I read about it, it was almost exactly what my own mother had told me she had witnessed 40 years ago. That they generally hang around cities, they follow highways, they're typically at low altitudes, they don't make, they're not the least bit concerned about evading observation or anything of the sort. So I take it these unidentified flying objects have made themselves known in your world. Have you seen them?
I've seen a few. Those black triangles and the stuff that we see, the public sees, 80% of what they see is stuff that we made. Only about 20% is real ET stuff because they got better things to do than to go around showing off their technology. But the fact is, if you had a switch and you could turn on, you could visibly see every saucer that was in the air during the daytime, the sky would be black, that there's so many out there.
Is that right?
But the ones that we have, the saucers and the black stuff, they used to fly them out of Groom Lake. I don't know if they fly them there anymore, but there's another secret base up 40 miles south of Wendover, and that's where a lot of the real secret outer space stuff is that we've got.
So how active are we in space? I mean, that makes it look like anything that has to do with NASA, per se, is just for public consumption. What's really going on is it's completely behind the scenes and unknown to 99.9% of the populace.
Yeah, well, I don't think that we can go any higher than 400 miles because that's where the Van Allen belt starts. And it's lethal radiation all the way up to 25,000 miles. So I don't think we've been any farther than that. Certainly, we didn't get to the moon, but, for other reasons. There wouldn't have been enough fuel in the Saturn V. The Saturn V was not engineered completely. Whenever you see the takeoff of any Apollo mission, you'll never see a second stage light up because there was no second stage. That would just go into the Indian Ocean, and I think the Russians recovered those, one of those or several of them. But anyway. We do have some stuff, but I don't think we go any farther than 400 miles.
So what about that? What about that trip to the moon?
Well, as I say, I don't think we took it. We didn't have enough fuel. The gravity on the moon, regardless of what anybody tells you, it's 70% that of Earth. And as we start to break out of this nonsense that we've been fed by the scientific community over the past 60 years, we'll find out that gravitational force is not due and proportional to the quantity and density of matter, and that's what we have used to determine the gravitational pull of the moon, which NASA tells us is 1/6 that of Earth. It's not; it's 70%. And being that it is 70%, there's no possible way that the lunar lander could have come out of orbit at 60 miles and made that entire descent and landed and then taken off, attained reorbit, and docked with 22,000 pounds of fuel, which is all they had. It's impossible. So somebody's lying there. And
so what about this moon? I've heard everything from there was a little explosive charge let off on it, and the thing rang like a bell for several hours, something like this. It's a strange little thing. I just kind of wonder about it. It's beat up all over.
Yeah.
And I mean,
it's essentially a spacecraft. It was built 20 billion years ago inside the planet Jupiter, and it's been on all over our solar system doing different things. But the last time it came to Earth, was put in orbit around Earth at 15,000 years ago. And the population on the moon, the people who live on the surface, is about 2 billion people. And they're people just like us. They're far more sociologically advanced and far more technologically advanced, but essentially they're just like us. They got malls up there that would make our malls look like 7-Elevens. It's just fantastic, the stuff they got up there. And then, of course, the Greys, the little robot, the biological organisms that are very, very advanced. They do all their scientific stuff under the surface of the moon. They have laboratories all over, cavernous stuff, openings under the surface of the moon, just like we do on Earth. There's many different civilizations that live underground here on Earth, and the same is for the moon. So, there's millions of those little guys up there. So the moon is a really, really busy place, and I've enjoyed over the past 5 or 6 years collecting pictures, and most of the pictures that's available to the public now are airbrushed or digitally. They've digitally removed any offending material being buildings, cities, towns, anything like that. Where I've got most of my pictures are from pre-1970 NASA publications, which published pictures that came from the Lunar Orbiter series. There was 5 satellites that they sent around the moon to take pictures of it between 1965 and 1967. And before they realized how busy the moon was and how many people were up there, they weren't airbrushing with any vigor the surface of the moon, which they do now. But I was able to get several of those books, which show fantastic pictures of cities and buildings and artifacts and all kinds of stuff up there. And it's on that I base my estimation of the population of the moon on the surface being 2 billion people, and the gravity being 70%. And of course, with the gravity being 70%, they can have an atmosphere, which they do, and it's a breathable atmosphere. It's equal to 18,000 feet on Earth. And if you were able to climb up a mountain and at 18,000 feet, that's what it'd be like at the moon. And the people that visit the moon, the moon people come down here and take scientists and different people up there for a couple of weeks to show them what's going on. And they say that they have to go through a decompression period of about 1 week to get used to the decompression at 18,000 feet, so that when they get down on the moon, they can breathe normally. And while you're thinking about that, a shout-out to Muse, Haas 58, Godlike Productions, and TheRealJohnLear.com.
John, you realize that this stuff has got to sound completely over the top and just nuts to people.
Of course, but we got to realize that somewhere somebody's got to tell the truth and say, "Hey, you guys, you're not going to believe this, but this is what's going on." For instance, in 1856, Peter Andreas Hansen was one of the most respected Danish mathematicians. He did computations for Saturn and a lot of other things there. And in 1856, he presented the Royal Astronomical Society with his idea that was probably somebody on the moon, and it was based on that the far side of the moon sticks out about 56 miles further than it does on the near side. And he made this technical brief, which everybody bought and thought it was great until 1870, when Admiral Simon Newcomb, who was here we go again, the U.S. Navy admiral, the head of the Naval Observatory there in Washington, D.C., he goes over to Paris, and with no facts or figures or arguments, he discredits Peter Andreas Hansen and says that that's not true, that there couldn't be anybody on the moon, and and he effectively discredited Hansen. But there's probably at least 20 very famous astronomers that say absolutely there is probably somebody up there. But whoever's in charge of what's going on down here, we're not allowed to know that. And So there's been an effective. The Apollo mission was really to make us believe that there was nothing up there, that it was just a bunch of dirt. And actually, the Apollo mission never went. That all that money was used for Project Aquila, was for eventually putting about 24 weaponized satellites platforms in orbit to hold weapons, like I told you about, destroyed the World Trade Center.
Well, now, so what's okay? So the moon's in an asynchronous orbit. You know, we see the same side all the time, right? So what's on the other side of it?
They put it there so that it makes one rotation during 1 month of rotating around the Earth, so that it just has one side pointing towards Earth, and that's so that we can't see a lot of what's going on the other side. But there is so much going on this side. I sent you a photo of the city of Damouzeau, and it's on the east or the west side of Oceanus Procellarum. It's just to the east of Gassendi, and to the northeast of Mare Orientale. And you could just look at that and say, hey, that's Santa Monica, because of all the lights and stuff. And that's one of the photos that you can see on Coast to Coast there. It's titled The City of Damouzeau. But there's stuff on the near side, many cities on the near side, but what they've had to do over the 50 years on the moon is hide a lot of this stuff, because as we get more technologically advanced, we get better telescopes, and we can see more and more. Of course, the government, by the government I mean NASA, has known about this all along. And so they have been doing their part to cover it up. First of all the photos taken by the great telescopes like Lick Observatory, Mount Wilson, Mount Palomar, all of those photos with the 200-inch telescopes, they're not available to the public. You can't see them. And if you write and ask to see them, they say they're not available, that they're in a safe, and they won't be looked at for many years to come. They don't give you any particular reason, but the reason is they show all of this cool stuff that's on the moon. But
it does take a telescope that large to see it.
Yeah.
We just can't see the pictures.
Now,
gotcha.
the way that the one picture I showed you that shows you a kind of a building, it's a structure, and it glows blue, and it's situated right on top of the crater Arcturus, which is 23 miles in diameter, and it's glowing blue, and that's a result. The color blue that it glows is a result of the Cherenkov effect, which is when radiation hits normal air.
Hang on, John. We'll be back. Hang on. This is Coast. Well, according to John Lear, that's what we're here for, is to live with integrity and honesty and get ready for the next realm. But in the meantime, this show is about, as the Brits say, controversy. I thought it was controversy. Of course, then again, I thought it was in the future, not just in future. Yeah. But then again, what do I know? We'll continue with John Lear in just a moment on Coast to Coast AM. Oh, I'll tell you, I'm getting some interesting emails in here, John Lear. Somebody wanted to ask, Mandy wanted to know if the moon people can teach us stuff like cool gospel keyboard progressions. John, you've had an extraordinary career, and for you to reveal this kind of information, well, it's just not normal, mate. It's not normal. It's just not normal. And now, the commercial sector wants to go to the moon, and I think Sir Richard Branson wants to go, doesn't he? And so I guess we're going to find out what's up there eventually, or not. Is it not a good idea for them to even try this?
We can't get there because of the Van Allen belt. So unless Richard Branson and whoever wants to go there figures out how to make 2 meters or 12 feet of lead shielding for their spacecraft, they're not going to get there. But
could we use a Led Zeppelin? Just kidding.
Good one, John.
Yeah. Pretend rim shot. Where's that rim shot, Dave?
Where's that rim shot?
Yeah. Let me ask you something now. You mentioned in some of these notes that I have here that are just all over the place. Einstein's theory of relativity, both general and special, have been proven wrong by the CERN accelerator. Is that true? And what did they find that disproves that?
Yeah, what happened is they're looking for the Higgs boson particle, and what they don't know is it doesn't exist. And what they did find is that neutrinos can travel faster than the speed of light, and of course, Einstein told us that nothing can travel faster than the speed of light. So effectively, what that does is it blows everything that Einstein said into the air. Nothing he said is valid. So it takes both special and general relativity and blows them out of the sky, along with Newton's second law. And basically, Newton's second law tells us that gravitational force is due and proportional to the quantity and density of matter. This is false. It's not. We don't know what gravitational force is, and so basically, we're to the part where we're going to have to find new answers. And I've seen them take a few steps. And I say they, mainstream scientists, since this information came out about the neutrinos, of saying, well, maybe the measurements weren't right. The measurements were right. Neutrinos can travel faster than the speed of light, as well as a lot of other things. And yes, Einstein was full of it. So now we're going to have to deal with what's really going on. And as far as I know, the smallest particle that we know of are the SMUs, which are the small. Hold on just a second. I lost my notes here. Molecular units and charge-ons. And what they do is they make quarks, and the quarks make electrons, neutrons, and neutrons, and let's see what else. I'm getting tired here and losing all my thing. But anyway, that's the smallest part of matter that we know about now.
Understood.
Singular mass units are what SMUs are, and they are orbited by charge-ons at 120-degree intervals. And these singular mass units are what make quarks, and quarks are what make neutrons, protons, and electrons. And that's what we spent umpty-ump $1 billion on the accelerator trying to find out. The things they know up at Area 51, and they know this because that's where he got it. They already know that, so they're. A lot of people are, the CERN facility was essentially doing KP, kitchen police, on stuff that's already known. They wasted billions of dollars on stuff that's already known.
Well, Einstein's theories, he got us close, didn't he, or did he not?
No.
Really?
It's nothing like that. And basically the matter that we know of, the life that we know of, the buildings, structures, everything that we know of is an illusion. We just live in an illusion. And basically it's we live in this illusion. We're here on this planet, along with 1 billion times 1 billion other Earth planets, learning how to live with integrity and without envy, hate, or greed. And I meant to add to that, and also expressing your love to your family each and every day. And this doesn't mean love you, honey, as you're flying out the door. This means taking your loved ones, holding them in your arms, and telling them how much they mean to you. And this is basically all we have to do. We don't have to worry about all this other stuff that's going around us. All we have to learn is how to deal with our own lives.
You make a point there that's actually pretty poignant. You see the condition of civilization of the Earth in general, and you really wonder where all this science and all this study has really led.
Yeah,
it's
people who only learn to bring their tomato plants in, it'd be a lot better.
Wouldn't it? All right, now let's go back to this moon thing for a second. Didn't Apollo 11 set down some sort of retro reflector that you can hit with a laser from Palomar and detect changes in Earth-Moon distance down to a few millimeters? Is that true? This is based on an inquiry I got from Jeff.
Yeah, they put it down, but the thing is, when a laser beam gets to the moon, it's 3 miles wide. So you're telling me that just a little teeny foot by foot, 12 inch by 12 inch reflector is going to reflect a beam that's 3 miles wide, and then when it gets back, it's twice that. It's going to be 6 or 9 miles wide when it gets back to Earth. So there's anything that we can reflect from the moon. In 1963-64, they were using transmissions bouncing off the moon when they were flying the SR-71 to pass messages back and forth. So no, the radar deflector, it's baloney. It's not. If it is reflecting, it's nothing that we can really use to determine the distance the moon is.
Well, let's just let's spin off in another direction here. People for years have been talking about magneto-leviton trains running around underground, connecting these vast underground bases and so forth. And you have asserted that there's actually an underground Navy submarine base in Nevada.
Yeah, there's an underground Navy submarine base, but that there's also one of those trains that goes from Las Vegas to the new secret base called Sandia. And that goes from McCarran Field, and it makes 2 stops at unnamed hotels, and then goes up to Sandia, and Sandia employs about 3,000 to 5,000 people. It opened in 1987, and in order to secretly take people up there, they couldn't use those 737s because it would be obvious that they were taking too many people up there. They can't use vehicle transportation because it would just take too long, and their only solution was to build an underground train and to use hotels as the boarding point, so that the people, when they go to work, they just look like they're an average gambler going in to whatever the hotel is, and going in a secret door and flashing their card or putting their card in, giving their eye diagram and whatever, and getting on the train like that. But in addition to that, there is a submarine base up at Hawthorne, and the reason there's a base there is because a lot of the submarine secret munitions are made just across the street by what used to be an Army facility. Now it's a civilian facility, and I forget what the name of it is, but all they have to do is, when they make these munitions, is drive them across the street down to where those great big buildings are on the shore of Walker Lake. And in these huge buildings, there's 2 huge elevators that go down 4,300 feet to the Pacific Ocean. Now, the Pacific Ocean underlies about a third of the western portion of the United States, which includes Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Idaho, California, and Arizona. And there are places where the submarines enter is just north of Fort Ord, and there's a little. If you go to Google Earth, you can go and see that canyon that comes and stops right at the shoreline. It's an obvious canyon. Well, that's the canyon they use to go under the ground in the water and go to these different points. Now, they can come out at Lake Tahoe. They can come out at Lake Pyramid. There's one in Seattle. There's one at Sandpoint, Idaho. There's one at China Lake. And there used to be one at Las Vegas. I don't know whether it's here anymore. But the main one there is at Hawthorne, Nevada. And the reason it's there is to give the submarines their munitions without anybody being able to figure out what they are or how they work or how many we have. Now, the reason I found it is, for the last 30 years, I've been driving back and forth to Reno, where my folks used to live, and there was a sign on the side of the road that said, Navy Underwater Warfare Center. It used to say Training Center, but now it just says Training Center. Or now it just says Warfare Center. So I imagine how they could train underwater when that Walker Lake is only 15 miles long and 100 feet deep. You sure aren't going to be able to do any kind of submarine operations there. And then I stumbled on a guy, a friend who was in the Navy, and he told me and drew on a map where the entrance was there in Monterey Bay, and how they went down in that canyon, and how they could go all kinds of different places underwater under the United States. And that's not the only place they go underwater to. They can go up the Mississippi to St. Louis. There's a submarine, there's a big company that makes submarine, very sophisticated electronic equipment. And the submarines can go up the Mississippi River and into someplace in St. Louis and dock there and get worked on there. And a friend of mine who lives there said, well, that makes sense then. And I said, why? He says, because I see dredges out there working all 24/7, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, dredging out in the middle of the Mississippi when all of the boats that go up and down and all the ships don't have that much draft. They don't need that much dredging. But if a nuclear submarine is going there, then they would certainly need that depth. So that explains why they're doing that dredging. And yes, that's where the underground submarine base is in Nevada, Hawthorne, Nevada.
Well, that's the best place to hide stuff.
If you drive by there, there's a guard gate. Just walk in and tell them John Lear sent you and ask for a tour.
Yeah, I'll do that. All right. Now, going back to, you mentioned the SR-71 a couple of times. Did the F-19 ever exist?
Yeah, the F-19 existed, and what they were trying to do was see if they could build an airplane without the knowledge of the president or Congress. And they were trying to see if they could finance it and build it and operate it without anybody knowing. They're getting tired, and when I say they, I'm saying the military or whoever is running the operation. They're getting tired of going to Congress and begging for money. They want to do what they want to do, and they want to get it done. So what they did is they designed the secret airplane, which was the F-19, and they designed another airplane to cover for that. Now, the cover airplane was the F-117A. They built, I think, 60 or 70 of those things. And the secret one, the F-19, uses the same engine, same gear, same commonality of parts, and they were built at Burbank, at Lockheed, and they had two assembly lines, and there was a big metal curtain going down the center of these assembly lines, and nobody could transfer from the 117A program to the F-19 program or the F-19 to the 117A program because they were totally secret. They built 62 F-19s. The Navy got most of them, and some of them went to Israel. And that airplane is out there, been operated, and the way they, made it secret was they just used the money for other projects, but then when they needed, say if they needed two engines for the F-117A, they just ordered 4, and they said, that's spares, we need spares. And then they'd use those two engines on the F-19. And that's the same thing they did with the landing gear and other parts, the commonality of parts.
Would people be surprised to learn how much freelancing is going on with people who can build stuff like this and somehow manage to get it financed, I guess, through the Black Ops budget or something that's not disclosed even to Congress? Yeah,
they would be very surprised. And, of course, a lot of the drug money is used when we went into Afghanistan. One of the reasons we had, not the only reason, but one of the reasons we went in there is to get control of the Hindu Kush, which is in northern Afghanistan, and it's a prime real estate of hundreds of thousands of acres of prime growing area for the poppy. And now that we're in there and running the program, in 2001, the New York Times reported that the The poppy production, the illegal drug production of Afghanistan, was 6% of the world's production. In 2007, they reported that it's 96% of the world production. And so we have control of it. We grow it, we harvest it, we plant it. And if you fly in Afghanistan for the Air Force, you'll notice that over the Hindu Kush, there is a no-fly area there, so that you can't bomb anything there. And that's to protect our drug interests. But of course, we were doing the same thing in Southeast Asia. We were growing it in Laos and Burma, and distributing from there.
Yeah, that's known as the Golden Triangle or something, isn't it?
Right, the Golden Triangle.
Yeah, I understand that some years ago they offered us a deal for something like a few $1 billion. I think it was $3 billion, I want to say. They said not a grain of heroin will come out of here, and the answer was, well, we can't very well take apart a $265 billion anti-drug operation for that money. No, we'll just... no thanks. And besides, we can't do deals with criminals. That's entertaining stuff.
Yeah,
it really, really is. Well, so as long as you mentioned Afghanistan, let's go on to the various other stands: Uzbekistan and Kazakhstan, and then Pakistan. Do you have any thoughts on that Bin Laden raid? It certainly seemed to be anticlimactical.
Yeah, Bin Laden died in a hospital in 2001. I have the actual newspaper article, when he died there, and all the procession, the burial procession and everything. I don't know what this deal in Pakistan, but it wasn't Bin Laden. He died years before. So I don't know whether they dredged this out and pulled up something for public relations work. I hated to see him take in SEAL Team 6, because they are one of the most prestigious parts of the SEAL teams. They were one of the original real secret SEAL teams. There's SEAL teams 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. I think odd operate on the West Coast and even operate on the East Coast or whatever. But anyway, 6 was the secret one, and I don't know whether it still exists as SEAL Team 6 or not. But it's certainly a shame to take some kind of a hokey mission like that and soil their reputation with some kind of a hokey raid.
Yeah, I never understood the part about 2 Blackhawks go in. They're both loaded with people. One of them has a mechanical problem, and then so they all get on board. The one that's remaining and fly out. No, and I think that's the reason they took 2 to begin with. There wasn't enough room for everybody on one, so they took 2.
Right. Yeah, there's a lot of questions I have about that.
No dialysis machine, no nothing. Well, if you feel like taking a few calls the next hour, we'll do that as we carry on with John Lear on Coast to Coast AM. I want to know about what happened to Roy of the famous Siegfried and Roy. It was not actually Roy, it was a cousin, and he got mauled because the animals didn't know him. Is that true?
Yeah, the real Roy died of cancer, and instead of bringing the act to a close, which was such a big act here and brought so many hundreds of thousands of people and would have put so many people out of work, what they did was they found a cousin of Roy's, gave him a facelift, and gave him training with the animals and substituted him without the public knowing. And he did okay until that point where he was unable to deal with the situation, and he got mauled. And, of course, that was the end of the act. But I think between the time that the real Roy died and the fake Roy got mauled was a couple of years, at least a couple of years. So they did keep the act going and made a lot of people a lot of money.
So that's a true story. That really happened.
Absolutely.
Roy's gone. He's been gone.
Absolutely.
Well, what I want to know is, how is it Wayne Newton looks the same year after year? I mean, that's just unbelievable. And Manilow, you know?
Yeah.
Well, I'll tell you what, there are a bunch of people who want to talk to you. Do you want to talk to them?
Sounds good.
All right, well, let's bring on Michael. He's in North Carolina on Wild One. Michael, come on board the bridge.
Morning, gentlemen. How you doing?
Good morning.
Fine, thank you.
I had a quick question. Take the answer off the air for Captain Lear. Wondering if he knew anything about a large celestial body possibly causing rapid ocean levels to rise globally, and if not the force of a celestial body, then some other solar force or galaxy force that could cause that. Thank you.
I don't know anything about it. I hear a lot about this planet Nibiru and Planet X, and if they are true, if they do exist, they're not going to cause us any problems, so not to worry. Bring
John,
your
I got a question for you.
Anyway.
Sorry, let's say that again.
Bring your tomato plants in anyway.
Yeah, right. Let me ask you something. Do you have anything to allow regarding these chemtrails? Because
I have not been a buyer of the chemtrail things. Having been a pilot for so many years and noticing all those things, there do seem to be a lot of contrails up there, but whether they're chemtrails or not, I don't know. But I do have friends that say they can smell the stuff coming down. So I have to say I do not know.
Well, I don't like to ask a man questions well, I don't mind asking you, because if you don't know, you'll just say so instead of trying to, bluff your way through it, and I appreciate that. But let me ask you a question. If two aircraft are at, first of all, at what altitude and temperature? Because it gets colder as you get higher, we know that.
Right.
At what altitude does a contrail occur?
It would depend on the water content of the air. If it was, as low as 28,000 feet, it could start there. If it's high as 35,000 feet, it would start there. It's different every day.
Well, now, can you have one at 12,000? Or is that too low?
That's too low.
It is too low. Oh, so you need a minimum of what altitude to get one?
Let's see. You need a minimum of 25 to 30,000 feet.
Okay. All right. Now, is it possible? Let's just say that we're looking at two planes. They're flying along there, and let's say they've got about the same amount of juice pushed forward with their throttles.
Let's say one produce and one not produce?
Well, let's say both aircraft. Let's say they're each of the aircraft. Let's say they're 737s or something, and so they each have two engines, and they're both at the same power settings and so forth, and they're both at the same altitude. Is it possible for one to produce a contrail and the other not to?
No.
That's what I was thinking. Okay, well, that settles that. Chemtrails are real. I knew it. All right, then let's talk to let's talk to Peter in Massachusetts. He's in Cambridge, Massachusetts, a venerable town, I think, on Wild 2. Peter, are you there?
Yes, I am.
Talk to us, brother.
Okay, John, thank you for this precious information. I have two questions. What's the story with the Iranian-Israeli threat of war? Is it some kind of con game? And the second question is, about 3 months ago, someone called in and said Dr. Peter Beater, who has passed on but has a website, was the assistant of Jimmy Carter, and he revealed that Jimmy Carter surrendered to Russia, surrendered sovereignty of the United States to Russia because Russia was taking out our defense systems with plasma weapons. So that's my two questions.
Do you hear anything about that, John? Russia took out our weapons.
I think he said the first one, was it a question about Iran?
Yeah.
What did he say?
Well, if you think it's going to happen, if you think there's going to be a conflict with them.
I don't know. I'm not a very good prophet. And,
okay. All right, and the other thing was, did directed energy weapons or particle weapons of some sort take out our defenses, and we've surrendered our sovereignty to the former Soviet Union, otherwise known as Russia?
No.
I didn't hear that one.
No, I doubt that would happen.
Okay, good. Well, Peter, don't worry about it. It appears that my money's on doing something with Iran, either that or this is one great big bluff, and we're looking over there when actually something's going to happen over.
Yeah, what people don't understand is this whole Cold War was a fake. We were always friends with the Russians. We traded space duties. They'd go to Venus, we'd go to the moon, and we traded off. But we were never enemies with the Russians. After World War II, we allied with them because there were bigger problems with, or supposed problems with aliens and other things that they had to deal with. So what they did was they faked this Cold War so that we could keep people's attention on a war between Russia and the United States, and not have them find out about what was really going on.
So you mean I went through all those stupid duck and cover drills for nothing?
For nothing. It was all a fake.
Well, we financed the 1917 Bolshevik Revolution, and all their stuff looks like our stuff.
Yep.
In fact, that Delphin jet I was telling you about earlier, that L-29, that's all our stuff. I mean, it all looks like our stuff. It's ridiculous.
Yeah.
Yeah, some of the nuts and bolts on it are English standard. You don't even have to use metric. No, never mind. It's ridiculous. All right, let's move along here. Roland in Central Nevada on Wild 3. Come up on the bridge and speak with us.
John B. Wells, you are awesome. I love Saturday nights. I wait for it to come every time so I can hear your topics and your voice and all that you do. So we love you out here, and your guest tonight is remarkable. And I have this question. I live near Urington. Do you know where that is? It's near
Absolutely.
Hawthorne.
Yeah, I used to fly for Baron Hilton, and we used to go into the Flying M Ranch just a little south of there.
I was driving down 95 back and forth from Urington to Vegas, through Hawthorne there. I was with a friend of mine, and we saw some strange vehicles carrying strange cargo, and they weren't marked or anything. And I was trying to give him my theory, and he was telling me they were these coffins for FEMA death camps. Do you know anything about that?
No, I've heard that rumor for years now, and I don't believe it, but there are people that do.
Yeah, there seems to be a lot of them. I was passing by a rail yard the other day, and I've mentioned this before, but every time I see this thing, it freaks me out, and I took a picture of it. And it just says that, warning, remote control locomotives in use, cabs may be unoccupied, which is sort of chilling. It's like, here, we will load you up into the strange looking personnel transporting boxcar things, and you won't be able to do anything about it because guess what? There's no engineer. There's nobody in the caboose. You're on your own, and we're controlling the train by satellite. I mean, that's pretty freaky stuff. I don't like it, but I suppose it's possible.
As long as you live your life with integrity and without envy, hate, or greed, you got nothing to worry about.
John, I'm not tweaking you here, but a minute ago you said the Russians, we were trading off space duties with them. They'd go to Venus, we'd go to the moon, but we didn't go to the moon. So does that mean they didn't go to Venus either?
Well, we faked going to the moon. Well, we did go to Venus, or the spacecraft did. Humans didn't go, but the information we got is baloney. They said that the surface temperature is 800 degrees C, which would make it impossible for the parachute, they said, landed the craft there. But no, Venus is a nice place to live. There's hundreds of millions of people there, just the same on every single planet and every single moon in our solar system. People are there. NASA tells us there's 4 gas giants in our solar system, when in fact there's only one gas giant, and that's NASA itself.
Right. And the only, well, yeah. And then I suppose the gas god would be the government that controls it. All right, Andrew in L.A. on Wild 5, would you be there?
Yeah, great show, John. Great show.
Oh, thanks.
Mr. Lear, it's a real honor. Bill Lear was your dad, is that correct?
That's correct.
Yeah, your dad was a brilliant, brilliant man. I had been following his inventions for some time, the Learjet and many others, and, what an honor to speak to you, and what a privilege to be born of a man of that stature. I'd like to know if you have ever heard about U.S. underwater sub-bases, which I had met a gentleman who pulled up in a limo many years ago, a gentleman about 90 years old, and this was 20 years ago, and had a chauffeur. And he told me his son had a software company that was making the software for U.S. sub-underwater bases. And I wonder if you had heard that. And secondly, have you ever heard any info about the broadcast out of Russia within the last 12 months about the prediction from Russia or Russian officials that China within 10 years was going to invade America.
No, I hadn't heard that China is going to invade America. I don't know whether that's going to happen. As far as the underground or underwater submarine bases, it sounds plausible. I see no reason why there couldn't be.
Anything
Okay.
about that? As far
All right, thanks.
But I don't have any information on it.
Thanks for the call. Appreciate you. Say, John, did your dad invent the 8-track tape player?
Right. Remember Mad Months, if you're that old? He had the 4-track tape player, and what would happen is it wasn't continuous loop, and you'd have to, when it got to the end, then you'd have to rewind it and play it again. And what my dad did is take that 4-track and made it 8 tracks, and made it a Mavis loop, and so that it would just play on and on and on. And he formed a different company and in Detroit, and their first order was from Ford Motor Company, I believe, in 1965, and they were the first ones to have the Lear 8-track stereo in their cars.
Now, did he also invent, I heard somebody say he invented the ADF, the automatic direction finder for aircraft. Is that
He
true?
improved it, and he made
gotcha.
it smaller. Same thing with the autopilot. He improved it and made it smaller, but he didn't actually invent the first one.
Well, what other things did he invent that we might not know about?
Well, he's always credited with invented the car radio, but that's not true. What he did is he invented the B battery eliminator, which allowed a radio to be played in a car without the ignition static. And that's the one that's the patent he sold to, the idea he sold to Motorola. And that's got him started, Lear Incorporated in 1930. And that company ran for until 1960 when he sold it to Siegler, and it became Lear Siegler. And he took the money from that and started Learjet Corporation.
Not to get personal here, and I don't want to be intrusive. Sorry, I had to hit the cough switch there, but was it difficult growing up around a visionary dad like that? Because you've gone on to be a roaring success, but a lot of times sons who grow up with illustrious fathers, they get tormented and troubled, and they don't do as well as their dads do. But while you might not be an inventor, you certainly did many other things that certainly qualify as right up there at the top of the fulfillment chain.
Yeah, he was a real pain, and I never got along with him, and he left me of his fortune $1, which incidentally I never got. But I'll tell you a story that would typify in 1960. No, it was 1971. I was flying for Clay Lacy Charter, and I landed at Wichita, and I'd always go over to Learjet to fuel because he gave me a break on the fuel. And I walked in, and he had all his engineers around, and they were having their usual evening drinking and BS section where they talk about what happened during the day and everything. And there was a guy there, an old engineer named Gordon Israel. And what they were talking about was adding a speed brake to the Learjet. And it already had spoilers on the top of the wing, but he was proposing a speed brake. And I was standing in the doorway, and I said, Gordon, that's a lot of BS. And out of the corner, the only thing I remember is I saw movement out of the corner of the eye, my eye, and then I woke up about 5 minutes later, and what he had done was knock me unconscious. And I woke up, and my dad's private cop there, Buzz Nanny, said, "You okay, John?" I said, "Yeah, I got to get to the airplane. I got to go." And later I heard from one of the engineers who was sitting at the table that after it happened, my dad said, "God, I wish I had the guts to do that."
Mm-hmm. It's very interesting. It's very interesting. I'll tell you, everybody's got a story. They really do. Alan, east of the Rockies in Hartford, Connecticut, are you there?
Hello, gentlemen. Great show tonight.
How you doing? Thanks.
Good to have you.
I'd like to back I'd like to back up Mr. Lear a little bit on his directed energy weapons comment. And just a little specific outline, and I'll try to make it quick. And that is that Building 6, Mr. Lear may know already where I'm going with this. On Dr. Wood's site, and also on Eric Huffschmid's book on this subject matter, there are clear photographs available in the public sector that were taken the day after 9/11, after the clouds had dissipated. They're taken from a satellite, top down, beautiful sunny day, and they capture the damage that was done. Building 6 lies at the foot of the two then non-existent Twin Towers. It was gutted on the inside of it, but the perimeter of the wall structure was left intact, perhaps about 20 foot thick of walls all the way around. Now, the dead giveaway that some kind of a space-based weapon was used, for me, is that along the perimeter of the interior of this building is a scalloped effect of perfect outline of circles.
Yeah,
now, you don't have the circles in the interior because apparently the weapon was used in an overlapping way, like a cookie cutter, one cut over the next, so there's nothing left in the interior of this building from the flat roof right down to the cellar. It's gone. The official story is that junk fell off of the towers and knocked down the interior. That's baloney. It's too even of a cut. There's even photographs of the interior of Building 6 that show a perfect, approximately 30-foot diameter circular cut right from the top of the roof straight down to the basement, and it betrays itself as a circle like the edge of a giant cookie cutter.
Yeah.
All along the perimeter of that building.
That's correct.
Wow. Tell you what, John, let's amplify that when we come back. I'll tell you what, this has been going awfully fast tonight. We'll be back with more John Lear and some more of your calls on Coast to Coast AM. Hey, we're going to be joined by Dr. Joseph Resnick, who works with John Lear on a thing called the Pegasus Project. 2 minutes, please. Coast to Coast AM will continue. Well, please welcome onto the bridge, along with myself and John Lear, Dr. Joseph Resnick, who works with John on the Pegasus Project. Dr. Resnick, you've been a guest on the program before, yes?
Yes. Hey, good evening. Hey, John, how are you?
Hey, John, what's going on?
Hey, you don't even know. You don't want to know. Hey, you know, I missed you at a seminar out in Las Vegas a couple of years ago. You were 10 or 12 minutes ahead of me, and I wanted to shake your hand and say thank you to you. You know, you have me posted up under Dark Secrets on the on your page.
Yeah.
Good to talk to you finally in person.
Great to talk to you.
So do you fellows work together or what?
Well, sort of yes of no's of in a roundabout way.
Well, tell the audience what you do in case they don't know who you are.
Well, John has written some things and posted some information about me, about moon mining.
Ah.
So.
What about moon mining?
Wait a minute. John, I sent you an email a few minutes ago to John Lear, at your email.
Okay, let me check.
Yeah. Well, that photo up there, those bubbles, guess what that is?
Which bubbles where?
Up on Coast to Coast email or Coast to Coast site tonight, you have those pictures of moon anomaly.
Yeah.
Well, guess what that is? That's a wellhead.
The one at Aristarchus?
Yeah, that's a wellhead.
A wellhead.
We're getting up there, John. H3.
Oh yeah, the
H3.
helium-3. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to give you. Okay, it's 4:40 a.m. Eastern Time. Okay, 10 minutes, no holds barred. I have an agreement in stone that I can talk about stuff. Okay, I'll give you 10 minutes. Ask me anything. Ask me anything that you want to know about the moon mining, H3. Who's involved? Okay, you got, it's 4:41 a.m. Okay, go. Now.
Okay, you have the rights to 90% of the moon minerals?
Well, here's how that happened, John. When I was a young man, I was involved with developing the speech technologies and next generation stuff for the military. It came to my attention that they brought this, they brought this stuff, the moon mining stuff.
Yeah.
Well, it was new back then. I'm going back 30 years now, John. I'm going back 30 years when I was a kid. So, I'm the little guy sitting in the corner. I've got all these egghead PhDs, talking about this stuff. And I said, well, what if we do this? Shut up, kid. I said, well, what if we shut up? Well, guess what? The kid didn't shut up. The kid went forward. I said, well, how about if we do it this way? So I went and did it that way. So, those guys have walked off the planet since then.
Okay, so who is the wellhead on Aristarchus? That's to mine helium-3?
See those bubbles?
I could look for them, yeah.
Yeah, well, it's on Coast to Coast. Okay, if you go on Coast to Coast AM right now, and you pull that up, and
it's about the third picture from the top, and there's several of them at the upper left. Yeah, those are what?
Yeah, look at these bubbles.
What are those bubbles?
Yeah, guess who the guy is that does bubbles? Me.
That's cool.
What does that mean?
Cool. Extremely.
Listen,
cool.
you guys, hold on a minute. You guys may understand each other, but there are several million people out there that may not. So what are you talking about?
Oh, the bubbles. You mean the perfect spheres that I have labeled as perfect spheres?
Yes.
Guess when we made the first quote-unquote perfect spheres. Nothing's perfect. But
okay.
The first spheres that we made in space were aboard STS-41 and STS-43.
Okay.
We made spheres. We made microspheres. And those microspheres are still today the only and first standard to calibrate, guess what? Hubble. You want to calibrate Hubble? Come to me. I give you the spheres to calibrate Hubble.
Okay, now you know that there's two Hubbles, right?
There's more than two.
That's great.
You on board.
Well, every time I think I got a story, somebody's got a better story.
I told you, okay, with the clock down is now 43.
Yeah.
So I give you, 10 minutes.
Okay, were you the one in the lab that had the reptilian working with you?
As a matter of fact, he had nictating eye lenses, and he was down in Florida. Yeah, I am he.
Yeah, that's the story. And and the way you could tell was that he'd close his inner eyelid every once in a while.
Well, he had glasses on, and then he pulled his glasses on, and he pulled his glasses off. And I said to him, John, I said, hey, why are you wearing those glasses? He said, well, where I'm from, it's pretty bright. I said, what do you mean? He said, well, it's pretty bright where I'm at. So they had 3 sons where he comes from.
Yeah.
Pleiades, undoubtedly, John.
Yeah.
Undoubtedly. They had 3 sons there. So this guy he was absolutely looked like a human being. Full bird colonel, by the way. Full bird.
Yeah.
Full bird colonel. I said, what the hell's the matter with your eyes? Pardon me. So, well, it's pretty bright where I come from. Then the next day I show up there, down in Florida, on the West Coast there. They told me, Dr. Resnick, you don't have access. Your access is denied now. I said, well, I have a meeting with, Colonel so-and-so. Well, access denied. I said, well, where is he? Not here. So, hey, John.
Okay, just want to confirm that story. That's good. Go ahead.
Well, I appreciate, you're keeping in touch with me and following me through the years and stuff. What do you want to know about moon mining?
I want to know if we're doing it.
Duh.
Are we mining helium-3 on the moon? If so, how do we get it back and forth?
I have been trying for the last 7 years to put together the team to do that. And there's...
But we haven't done it yet?
Well, I'm not going to say that. Even though I give you unrestricted, and it's 4:46, I've got 4 minutes left, 5 minutes. Now here, there is a young man who lives in Liechtenstein, and he is very, very wealthy and funds all of these projects. He funds these projects. Young guy. Just go into a store in any of the portals that you go into and buy some, Cobel candies or Swiss chocolates. The kid owns everything. He owns everything. Young kid. Young guy. Well, he's in his 30s now. First time I met him, he was 17. He's in his 30s now. But they fund everything from Liechtenstein.
Okay, and so why is he important to us?
I'm sorry?
Why is
he said, why is he important to us?
They fund everything.
Oh, okay, I see. Now, have you been to the moon yourself?
Money. It's the money.
Yeah, the money. Have you been to the moon yourself?
Follow the trail. John should know this. As he was cut out of his inheritance, just follow the money.
Yeah.
See who's putting up the money.
Okay, now, have you, Joe, have you been to the moon yourself?
John, I have not. I direct everything from a little place out here in the woods, and I have people that work for me, and I do things, and I travel, and still do stuff for PEO. And
okay, now, do you know somebody who has been to the moon?
I do.
Okay, and I'm not talking about the Apollo astronauts, but somebody else.
I do.
Okay, good. Well, I don't know what to do with my...
I can't tell you his name, but I can tell you that I have sponsored that individual to be part of the first Mars mission, and he has been approved. He's a good guy.
Okay.
He's a really good kid. I have been with him and mentored him for the last 20 years or so.
Yeah.
Many are picked, few are chosen. He's a good guy, good kid.
Okay, Joe,
it's a one-way trip up there, don't you, John?
No? What's the deal?
One way.
That's what I heard, but...
No, it is. It's one way. We can get you there, but we can't get you off because of the atmosphere. The atmosphere is absolutely volatile up there. Despite what NASA,
We can get somebody there, but we can't bring them back, huh?
It's one way, John. It's one way.
Can't we get the guys there to help us?
Pardon me?
Can't we get the people who live there on the moon to help us?
The people, the entities on the moon are not people.
Okay.
They're not people. They're not like us.
Okay. What areas of the moon do you know most about? Where all this stuff goes on? The landing, for instance.
Oh, we have multiple sites.
Okay, tell me one.
There's a place on the back side of the moon.
What's the name of it?
It's about 70. Well, it doesn't have a name yet.
Oh.
We haven't given it a name. It's about 70 miles high. That's the takeoff and landing port.
Huh.
It's 7 on the back side of the moon. If you look at the front side of the moon, you see all these deviations and.
I'm very familiar with both sides. Just tell me about where it is on the far side.
John, I can't tell you that, but I can tell you if you've been watching, postings lately. Well, it's 4:50. I got 2 minutes. Some kid took a picture. Then it was posted on the internet. This little girl took a picture real close to those coordinates. Real close to those coordinates.
Okay.
Close. It was. She couldn't get back behind the 32nd degree. She could only go to. You know what? We're working with Google Space right now on our Orly project and MI projects to bring this technology forward.
Yeah.
It's a really good. It's good technology. John, you should call me. Connect with me. I'll give you this stuff.
Okay. Let's get together.
All right. That's Dr. Joseph Resnick.
We've got 1 minute. I have to get off. It's 4:51. I have to get off. John, I've been watching you for many years. I'm a friend of yours, a supporter of yours, and I think you simply rock. and I appreciate Coast to Coast and George Norrie and Art Bell, and it was a pleasure to have spoken with all of you folks and to all the listeners out there. You know, there's a lot of stuff going on out there that people should know about. And they pay guys like me that they keep, down in a dungeon and throw me a bone every once in a while.
Yeah.
So I come out of the woodwork. This happens to be one of the nights I'm out of the woodwork.
Well, thank you for the information, Joe, and send me an email.
I shall, John.
Okay.
All right. Okay, it's 4:52. I got to go.
Okay.
All right, over and out. Thanks for joining us. That was Dr. Joseph Resnick. Hey, John Lear. So tell us.
He is one of three guys that owns the major portion of, or has claimed the mining rights, mineral rights to the moon. And what he did with this group was went to the United Nations, and of course countries are not allowed to claim any part of the moon, but these individuals, being not countries, were allowed. And if you go to thelivingmoon.com, you'll see all the paperwork that we have there on the claims that these guys made for the minerals on the moon.
So he's a former NASA scientist and a current consultant to NASA?
Apparently, what the interesting part was that he used to work with Reptilian in his laboratory, and he told us that the eyes were very strange. He wore dark glasses, and that when he took the glasses off, he could tell he was a reptilian because of the inner eyelid that would open and close every once in a while.
Okay. Well, let me ask you this, I don't know. I'm trying to get some research. I'm trying to research him right now as we speak. But now, what is he a doctor of? Astrophysics or what?
I don't know. It's probably on the Living Moon.
Okay, I'll check it out. I'm looking at it. Then that's let's see, RESNICK, not REZNIK, RESNICK.
Right.
And so the Mars mineral rights have been secured by the good doctor, Lieutenant Colonel Timothy R. O'Neill, and Guy Kramer.
Now, I can't understand how that can be because, there's pretty bad guys up there on Mars. As a matter of fact, that's where the Bigfoot comes from. So I don't know.
The Bigfoot comes from Mars?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're originally from Mars. And so I don't know how all this fits in, but, the rabbit hole gets deeper and deeper.
Well, it certainly does. Well, we're about out of time here. Our planetudinium is turning into depletium. You know what I mean? Yeah. What would you like to leave our listeners with?
Live your life with. We've unloaded a lot on you tonight, but you have to remember that the key to our life is living it with integrity and without envy, hate, or greed, and with expressing your love to your family each and every day. And this is not a love you, honey, as you're flying out the door. This is taking them in your arms, your children, your wife, your loved ones, and telling them how much you love them. Now, if you graduate from Earth, and you don't have to come back here, you're going to go out into space and see wonderful things, fantastic things. And we're just in a maturing place down here where our souls are being matured. And once you're born and you have a soul, you live forever and ever and ever. There's no end. Like there's no end to this universe. There is no 17 billion years or any of that Hubble stuff that they tell you about. The universe is infinite. It goes on forever. There's so many billions of different types of aliens and so many different dimensions. There's not 1, 2, 3, or 4 dimensions. There's 20 of them. And once we get off Earth, once we graduate here, we get to see a lot of that stuff.
That's great.
So,
John Lear, it was a real pleasure talking to you. Come back again sometime soon, will you? I'll see you out there in Nevada one of these days.
Okay.
Take care. Well, everybody, I have one last announcement to make. It's April Fool's Day, and this entire program has been an oral hologram, so to speak, or an illusion. Or was it just an illusion of an illusion? Meet me at the usual undisclosable location next Saturday night, okay? Until then and beyond, good night.